Accustom your tongue to say, I do not know, lest you become entangled in a web of deceit. Rav Ashi said, this question is unfounded, as Moses was standing at midnight of the 13th, leading into the 14th, when he pronounced his prophecy. And Moses told Israel that the Holy One, blessed be he, said that tomorrow, at the exact time like midnight tonight, I will go out into the midst of Egypt. This indicates that the passage should not be understood to mean about midnight, an approximation, but rather like midnight as a comparison, likening midnight tomorrow to midnight tonight. The Gemara further explores King David's character. It is said, a prayer of David, keep my soul, for I am pious. Psalms 86, 1 and 2. Levi and Rabbi Yitzhak debated the meaning of this verse and how David's piety is manifest in the fact that he went beyond his fundamental obligations. One said, David's declaration of piety referred to his awakening during the night to pray. And so said David before the Holy One, blessed be he, Master of the universe, am I not pious? As all of the kings of the east and the west sleep until the 3rd hour of the day, but although I am a king like them, at midnight I rise to give thanks. Psalms 119:62. And the other sage said, David said the following before the Holy One, blessed be he, Master of the universe, am I not pious? For all of the kings of the east and the west sit in groups, befitting their honored status, but I sit as a judge who issues rulings for the people. Women come with questions of ritual impurity, and my hands become soiled with their blood as I labor to determine whether or not it is blood of impurity. Women come with questions of ritual impurity, and my hands become soiled with their blood as I labor to determine whether or not it is blood of impurity, and she has menstruating woman status. And with a fetus that miscarried at a stage of development before it was clear whether or not it is considered a birth. And with placenta which women sometimes discharge unrelated to the birth of a child. See Leviticus 15:19 through 30 with regard to blood, and 12:1 through 8 with regard to miscarriage and placenta. King David went to all this trouble in order to render a woman ritually pure and consequently permitted to her husband. If after examination a sage declares the woman ritually pure, she is permitted to be with her husband, which leads to increased love and affection, and ultimately to procreation. Rabbi Yoshiyahu Pinto. And not only do I engage in activity considered to be beneath the station of a king, but I consult my teacher, Mephibosheth, son of King Saul's son, Jonathan, with regard to everything that I do. I say to him, Mephibosheth, my teacher, did I decide properly? Did I convict properly? Did I acquit properly? Did I rule ritually pure properly? Did I rule ritually impure properly? And I was not embarrassed. Foregoing royal dignity should make me worthy to be called pious. Rav Yahashua, son of Rav Idi, said, what verse alludes to this? And I speak your testimonies before kings, and I will not be ashamed. Psalms 119:46. This verse alludes both to David's commitment to Torah, in contrast to the kings of the East and the West, as well as to the fact that he was not ashamed to discuss matters of Torah with Mephibosheth, a descendant of kings. David was not afraid to have his mistakes corrected by Mephibosheth. It was taught in a Tosfeda from a Tanaitic tradition. His name was not Mephibosheth, but rather Ish-Bashet was his name. Why was Ish-Bashet referred to as Mephibosheth? Because he would embarrass Mevayesh, David, in matters of halakha. According to this approach, Mephibosheth is an abbreviation of Bashet Panim, embarrassment, because David was not embarrassed to admit his errors. He merited that Kilav, who according to tradition was exceedingly wise, would descend from him. Rabbi Yohanan said his name was not Kilav, rather his name was Daniel, as it appears in a different list of David's descendants. Why was he called Kilav? Because he would embarrass Machlim, Mephibosheth, the teacher or authority figure, Av, in matters of halakha. In his book of wisdom, Solomon said about this wise son, "My son, if your heart is wise, my heart will be glad, even mine." Proverbs 23:15. As David enjoyed witnessing his son Kilav develop into a Torah luminary, to the extent that Kilav was able to respond to Mephibosheth. And Solomon says about Kilav, "Be wise, my son, and make my heart glad, that I may respond to those who taunt me." Proverbs 27:11. With regard to David's statement, "Keep my soul, for I am pious," the Gemara asks, did David call himself pious? Isn't it written, "If I had not, Lula, believed to look upon the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living"? Psalms 27:13. The dots that appear over the word Lula in the text indicate doubt and uncertainty of his piety, and whether he was deserving of a place in the land of the living. See Avot de Rabbi Natan 34. In the name of Rabbi Yosef, it was taught in a Tosfeda, why do dots appear over the word Lula as if there are some reservations? Because David said before the Holy One, "Blessed be he, Master of the universe, I have every confidence in you that you grant an excellent reward to the righteous in the world to come, since God's ultimate goodness is manifest in the land of eternal life. But I still harbor uncertainty with regard to myself, and I do not know whether or not I definitely have a portion among them." In any case, apparently David was uncertain whether or not he deserved to receive a portion of God's reward for the righteous. How then could he characterize himself as pious? The Gemara responds, his concern does not prove anything, as King David knew that he was pious. He was simply concerned lest a transgression that he might commit in the future will cause him to lose his opportunity to look upon the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. The Gemara cites a proof that there is room for one to fear lest he commit a transgression in the future, in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi, as Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi raised a contradiction between two verses. It is written that God told Jacob in his vision of the ladder, "Behold, I am with you and I guard you wherever you go." Genesis 28:15. Yet when Jacob returned to Canaan and realized that Esau was coming to greet him, it is written, "And Jacob became very afraid, and he was pained." Genesis 32:8. Why did Jacob not rely on God's promise? Jacob had concerns and said to himself, "Lest a transgression that I might have committed after God made his promise to me will cause God to revoke his promise of protection." Apparently, at times, transgression does cause God's promise to go unfulfilled. As it was taught explicitly in a Berakhot with regard to the ostensibly redundant language in a verse in the Song of the Sea. "Until your people will cross, Lord, until the people you have acquired will cross. You bring them in and plant them in the mountain of your inheritance, the place, Lord, which you made for your dwelling." Exodus 15:16 and 17. The Gemara interprets homiletically that "until your people will cross" refers to the first entry into Eretz Yisrael during the time of Joshua, while "until the people you have acquired pass over" reflects to the second entry following the exile in Babylonia. Based on the juxtaposition of these two entries in this single verse, the sages said, Israel was worthy of having a miracle performed on its behalf in the time of Ezra the scribe, just as one was performed on their behalf in the time of Joshua bin Nun. However, transgression caused the absence of a miracle. The Gemara returns to explain what we learned in the Mishnah. And the rabbis say, the time for the recitation of the evening Shema is until midnight. The Gemara asks, in accordance with whose opinion do they hold in explaining the verse? When you lie down. If they explain this verse in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, who says that when you lie down is the time when people customarily go to sleep, then let the rabbis also say that the time for the recitation of Shema extends, in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, until the end of the first watch.